Hello everyone, Armin here, and I'm presenting today the Mercedes-Benz AMG EQE SUV. Right? So this is the SUV version of the EQE, based on the same platform, also shared with the EQS and EQS SUV. Overall, right, it's an electric, high-performance SUV. And from an aesthetic perspective, I would say, for my taste, this is one of the few times where the SUV version looks better than the sedan, right? So if we take a look at the EQE sedan, there's a highly aerodynamically designed vehicle. This is still very efficient. A lot of the aero tricks of the sedan is also on this vehicle, but that added height kind of helps it proportionally, right? So this represents what most SUVs look like, except that it's a proper AMG, and it comes with all the AMG design features. Here we have 21-inch wheels, a lot of smoked or black chrome around the vehicle, some AMG badging. If we look in the front, our, call it aero grille, right? Our front fascia is inspired by the by AMG Black Series vehicles. If you're familiar with your upper echelon Mercedes styling cues, here we have a nice AMG badge, right? Interesting, because as you can see, there is a valve and a camshaft and a valve spring on there, so you see some of that heritage. I mean, it is to be preserved, right? So that's interesting. You got internal combustion components on your electric super SUV. Also, you can't open this trunk, right? So no frunk in here. Can't open it up. If you have to do some maintenance, your windshield washer fluid access pops out of here, so that's not a charging port. But overall, interesting subdued tone. I don't know, I'm very excited. Carbon ceramic brakes, about 600 horsepower, 700 foot-pounds of torque. So a lot of power, but we have about almost 6,000 pounds to move, right? So quite a heavy vehicle, but I think with that, we'll hop into the front seat and see what awaits us in here. Take a look. Mercedes hyper screen. Very nice interior. A lot of high quality materials and a very sporty looking steering wheel. So let's see how this thing handles. Hi guys. Now that I'm in the vehicle, you can clearly see that I'm smushed into the steering wheel. Reason being that there's an interesting feature in this vehicle where you can put in your height and then the vehicle will adjust the position of the steering wheel, the height of the seat, the angle of the backrest to optimize your seating position, right? So we have it set to 4'9", so I barely got in here. I'm gonna set it to my height, 193 centimeters. So that's how we talk about in Germany. There we go, 6'4", start positioning, and you see it's moving everything along. I'm just along for the ride. Well, you could just do it yourself, but it's kind of fun, and then straightens me out a little bit, and that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. I would maybe raise it a little bit, all right? But yeah, that feels nice. And so with that, let's discuss what we have in front of us, right? We have the hyper screen, which is pretty cool, touch sensitive in the middle and for the passenger. One design feature that keeps catching my eye is that the screen itself has right angles and straight lines, but the interior design of the bezel is all organic, let's say, right? So my eye always catches that those two, design languages are sort of at odds, and I think you could just design that a little bit more harmoniously. This vehicle obviously it's AMG, very fast. If we turn it on, we have, okay, a lot of sounds. So we see on the steering wheel we have 2 dials, right? So right here we'll let it come up. This dial lets you select your power level. And we start with our slippery mode. This has about 300 or so horsepower. And if we scroll over to comfort, that is about 493 horsepower. In sport, it is 455. Sport Plus gives you the full 617 horsepower that it's rated for, together with 700 foot-pounds. But then also, if you do the AMG race start by holding down the brake and the gas pedal at the same time, accelerator pedal that is, in this vehicle, you get about 677 horsepower and I think about 3.3 seconds to 60, depending on how you measure it with rollout, etc. But with that, this vehicle, active suspension, you can select sounds differently and drive mode, right? So this all is preset depending on your drive mode, but you can also go into an individual mode and say, okay, I want the sporty suspension, but I got time, I don't need the whole power, right? Or it's too much for me. Me personally, I'd always leave it with the most power, maybe slack it off, you know, on the air suspension, get a little bit more ride comfort until I feel like, hey, let's have some fun. Let's stiffen it up and, see how it handles. With that, I think I should take it for a drive. So, reverse, camera flips up, pretty crisp. Feels like it's a fisheye lens. Predicts where you're driving, so that's. Then we have our bird's eye view over here, stitched together camera views from our 360 surround camera system. So that's really like that. You have at Munro we have a F-150 with that, and when I borrow that vehicle, I really appreciate maneuvering in parking lots with a large vehicle like that. This has about 9 degrees of rear steering input. So we're just maneuvering in parking lots like that with given this wheelbase. It really maneuvers very well in and out of parking spots. So let's do a little bit of launch. We got a little bit of space in front of us. I will put it into Sport Plus. Everything is set to the most aggressive setting. Hold down the brake, push the accelerator. It tightens the seatbelt and we'll use the ceramic brakes. There we go. Okay. Apparently it was 677 horsepower. Does feel brisk.
So I felt it.
You felt it? AMG, huh? Okay. So it has sounds for added theater, which is, it's pretty cool. I always used to think, I don't want fake engine noises, and it would really bother me in ICE vehicles when they, would augment exhaust noise, because then it's fake, right? But now in EVs, like, okay, why not? It just gives you another sort of reference point, right? Because you're missing that anyways. You don't have gear shifts, right? So why not? I think it's so far removed from what sounds used to be that now it's allowed, right? So I'm gonna take it across the street here to where we have a broken up parking lot to test out the adaptive suspension here. So right now we're in the stiffest mode, which if you're just on the road without any undulations, it's no big deal. But anyway, I feel it's surprisingly responsive for 6,000 pounds and being an SUV, right? So usually SUVs, high center of gravity, they'll wobble around on you. But this being an AV, you do have a very low center of gravity for it being an SUV. Right? So, and then together with an adaptive suspension and all the trickery in terms of active roll bars, etc., you can get a quite a sporty feeling vehicle, and then just slack it off and have comfort at the same time. So so let's try this out. If I go to Sport Plus and to Individual, so everything is super harsh right now. We'll hit some of these speed bumps, boom, boom. There's some broken pavement here. I'm just gonna run over this bunch of rocks. Right, it's not terrible, but you feel it. There's a giant pothole, and I'll run through that. It feels solid, but now if we slack that off to comfort and do that same ride, I would assume it has adjusted already. So now the vehicle has taken out maybe some spring rate, depending on how many chambers we have in these air suspension bladders, and probably changing the dampening ratio. I can feel it wobble around a lot more, and also relaxing the anti-roll bars so that the suspension can function more individually per wheel, right? So I feel right away that everything is less harsh, but the car starts to, what would be the right word? Move around more on its suspension. So there's more motion or more overall motion going on, but less harsh. And so you kind of pogo around a little bit, but it feels very nice. So back into sport mode. And then one thing you can do here, because this is an AMG. So AMGs, right, they're supposed to be a little bit silly. Traction off, hold it down. And now we should have everything turned out, and let's see if this AMG does AMG things, right? We have a little bit of space here. So we see smoke. That's AMG. Yeah, I think we can let it count, right? There we go. So it's a EV, but you still get some of those AMG smells. It doesn't smell like burnt gasoline, but burnt rubber. I think first impressions of this vehicle is that you almost have this. It's very surprising. So if you come from a background of ICE vehicles and you haven't tried a lot of EVs, you get a lot of performance with all the tech that's in here. You get a lot of adjustability. It hides its weight very well, and you really just don't expect it. I didn't, and I can tell this is much more, let's say, performance orientated in the highest performance mode than the i5 M50 that we have previously tested. That car isn't a full M car, so it wouldn't be a full or competitor on the same level of this AMG trim, but this is definitely the real deal from AMG perspective. And so as we saw in our underbody review, and the suspension has a lot of cost put in from a technology perspective, as well as just the general architecture, right? So we have SLA suspension, upper and lower wishbones, together with a dissected lower wishbone, which gives you a virtual ball, allowing for even more control over the kinematics of the vehicle or of the suspension. Together with adaptive suspension, adaptive dampers, maybe even adaptive spring rates, adaptive anti-roll bars, you really have a breadth, a very high degree of adjustability when it comes to how the vehicle behaves on the road, right? Right now, just like this, even though we're in sport and we're very stiff, it's still quite comfortable. like with just this suspension setup. The architecture gives you a lot of comfort in itself, even though we're in Sport Plus, right? So stiff springs, etc. But on top of that, we're able to slag everything off for just comfort driving. And so this is a lot of added complexity, a lot of components, a lot of cost, but it does pay off. All right, that was it. EQE SUV AMG. Impressive amount of technology and impressive results to it. In my personal opinion, I would love to have all of this in a smaller package, something that costs a lot less money. But I think it's quite likely that in the future we'll be offered something like that by some OEM, right? So maybe make it less than 4,000 pounds or 4,000 pounds. Keep the power the same, keep all the tech in there, and I'll be a customer. So with that, thank you very much for tuning in, and watch out for the next videos. Thank you, everyone.